All right, tell us about yourself, Andrew. Wait, tell us about you.
Okay.
Oh, cool, there you are.
Athletic.
We're gonna have to play music or something real quick. It's just nothing but jumbles.
I can't even.
I'm not hearing anything either. At least it's live. Awesome. Here, so
Everything's for you. Is this just like a problem with my Wi-Fi?
Andrew, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, so how'd you get into it, man? How'd you get into strength and conditioning? You said you played college football.
Yeah. I played college, or I played college of the Canyons, and really enjoyed the process, and I enjoyed the strength conditioning part of it, and staying with the team and the camaraderie associated with it. So, after I finished there, I decided to get. I continued on to and
Can you use your computer?
There is a rationale for it, but not.
continued at Cal State, learned some more. Continued on jogging.
All right. Can you hear yet? Can you plug it into yours? So you can hold on. We're still having some issues with the computers.
Okay.
So just do yours off completely your audio. Sorry, dude. All right. It's been 10, 15 minutes. I don't know how we can do it. Okay, we're good. All right. So how about your education? So you ended up going to college in the Canyons for what? Your just to do
Yeah,
pre-rec?
I decided I wanted to play football, so I went to junior college, got my AA there, then transferred after deciding to undergrad there, and then continued on to Cal State Fullerton for a graduate degree. And that's it for my education at this point in time.
So did you originally see yourself going into strength and conditioning or being a strength and conditioning coach after getting your master's degree?
I saw myself doing it after I decided to not play football anymore. My strength coach at College of the Canyons was a big influence in that. Not directly, but just being on the team and going through the process while I was there. It really did a lot of that. So I decided to pursue it after I was done playing. So I saw myself doing it at that point in time. But as anyone in our field knows, it's a hard field. It's really hard to get your foot in the door. It's hard to get a job, and then it's hard to get a good paying job. So there's always bumps along the road, but pretty happy with where I ended up at this point in time.
And what was your involvement as far as the
One more time, Wendy. Couldn't hear you.
She'll type it in real quick. So your strength coach at the community college, how different was he than when you worked at Southern Missouri, I think, and how was it like different from how you worked at UCLA? So that's three
One more
different
time.
levels of. How was it at UCLA in comparison to the other places where you've interned?
It's the biggest difference between the three. It's definitely the funding. UCLA was definitely, it's UCLA, so they had really nice weight room, really nice facilities. They had great coaches there. Compared, College of the Canyons, it's a junior college that no budget. Everything was, has for his weight room. To be honest, everyone's different, and I took, bits and pieces of information from each one. So, I mean, yeah, the biggest part is, huh?
Yes, we try to do everything maximum. What do they do differently? Because I found that sometimes when you don't have the greatest facilities, you have to be able to adapt to that situation.
Yeah,
You're not going to send anybody home. So you can't.
yeah,
So what
absolutely.
did your
At College of the Canyons, Coach Robert Dos Remedios was huge on testing out and trying a whole, mess of different implements and tried to install as much as he could into his program. So he was used a whole bunch of different things to complete his program. Compared to UCLA, it's a lot more rigid. You have the space and the time and the money available and the facilities to do everything you want. So it's a lot more regimented in that aspect, comparatively to Missouri Southern State, where I was last at before here. I would say it was a little mix between both, where they were definitely very regimented, and there's a plan for every team, and they carried out that plan successfully. But with limited facilities, they used what they had to the best of their ability.
So you had to rely on his creativity to make stuff work.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to deal with you have to take what you have and use it to the best of your ability to train your athletes.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this question is another one that'll help the students that are listening. What was your involvement like during your time here at CSUF when you were getting your master's degree?
Just from a personality trait, I'm very introverted. So my first year was very hands off. I definitely regret it, but just went about my classes and didn't really talk to that many people. And then you take Dr. Brown's class. It's not it's or, and you take class Dr. So my a lot more first year. I'm out of my.
Hey, how do you stay up to date on your research?
It's pretty hard because I have 15 or in possibilities within the physical education, through the NSCA. There's a lot right now. They're coming media and the research and apply it. So, like, yeah, it's.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to show us your weight room real quick? Everything you got.
We're still in the process of adding a few more things and pretty much trying to get a budget for adding more equipment, just basic things, boxes, med balls, stability balls, stuff like that. That's pretty much it. It's not a whole lot, sorry. We just moved in a few days ago, so before that it was hard to do anything. This is the way it's been for a few months now. No audio, guys.
All right, Andrew, how many athletes are in there in a day?
Well, okay, so I have 16 teams, minus 5 other ones who are some of the bigger ones like track and field and cross country. Each team comes in about 2 to 3 times a week, so on a daily basis, maybe 100 to 150. And then we also have the student population coming in as well.
Right, man. So hey, we're breaking up though, but how do you stay up to date on your research?
Pretty much through Facebook. Sometimes I get time to read through a journal, picking out the articles that pertain to my field the most. But honestly, Facebook has become a great tool where Facebook and Twitter and even Instagram, where researchers are putting out a lot of content, and it makes it a lot easier to stay up to date when they're they're sharing their research and it's become really easy. Definitely with my busy schedule, it's hard to stay up on it. But yeah, with social media, it's become very easy.
All right, who do you follow then? Who should we be following? We should
it seems like Schoenfield and Contreras are killing it right now. Dr. Galpin at Cal State Fullerton is killing it right now. Other than that, I can't think of many that come to mind. You just kind of see it as those three post, articles from other researchers in the field. And then you have all the great coaches out there that post a lot of information and share their systems and tools that they use or their points of view.
How did you go about getting the position you got?
How did I go about getting this position?
Yeah, when you're going in, what's the interview like? Who do you talk to?
Well,
like?
yeah, absolutely. So we had about 8 people on my committee, and they're all sport coaches. It was definitely interesting because it was the first time I had an interview where I'm not talking to a strength coach, and they're not asking the questions. So it's kind of funny because anything you say that may seem intelligent, they'll believe it because they don't know any better. Athletic trainers are the closest thing that are to a strength coach, so they understood. But their biggest thing here was, will I fit in with the kids? Will I be a good fit for the kids and then the coaches? Because ultimately those are the ones I'm working with. And it's definitely a very unique demographic here. All the kids are very, very intelligent. Some of them come from, not some of them, most of them come from wealthy backgrounds, especially within Claremont-McKenna College. So they were more concerned about, will I be a good fit for the kids or for the athletes than the coaches.
In that process, they played a big part, the kids?
They played a part. I wouldn't say it was a big part, but they definitely interviewed me and asked me a whole bunch of questions and things like that, things that they were looking for in a strength coach, even though they've only had one guy before me here. So this program is pretty young. It's only in its 3rd year of existing, and the other guy was here for 2 years.
So does it appeal to you on some level to deal with more cerebral kids where, I'm guessing, and I know this to be true about.
They definitely have. Are
You
you still going?
have yeah, I'll finish my question real quick. But is it appeal to you that these kids want to have a rationale for why you do things? Because a lot of kids don't care, but I'm guessing because you're dealing with a more cerebral.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that was part of the interview process where they want to know why we do certain things, and even though if I get a kid who's about to go to med school, I can talk about a few things, or even some of the psychology kids or the bio kids, but most of our kids, I wouldn't say most, but they're in econ gov or some other major where they don't know a whole lot about what I do, but they definitely want to hear the rationale, and they have a lot of questions, and they want someone to be able to explain to them why we're doing this and why we want to, for people who don't know, it's always about the exercises. Why are we doing this exercise and stuff like that. So it definitely appealed to me. It was something they talked about in the whole process, and I've talked to a whole bunch of coaches after this year, and the kids really appreciate that I explain not everything, but most things to them.
Is it hard, selling people on the program?
Is it hard selling people?
Yeah, just when you're working with coaches for the first time, how do you convince them to work with you and buy into your program?
Well, most of the coaches here were pretty interested in having, a strength coach work with their team. It's definitely challenging just because of the variety of sports, but they ultimately see the value in it. But in the end, they want to see results, and So it's kind of like one of those things where we're gonna give you a shot because I don't know any better, but I need to see something concrete that that will produce results, and I think I did a very good job of that this year, and just very it's the mission of every strength conditioning program. I reduce injury by a lot this year, so I think they were happy that even if some kids or some teams weren't as successful, the kids or the athletes that needed to be on the court or on the field or in the pool were there. They were able to participate, and so we had some athletes that had great success this year. So I think they appreciated that.
So this is like a two-part follow-up question, but what advice do you have for those graduating with just their undergrad in kinesiology?
And they want to get into strength and conditioning or just kinesiology?
Yeah. No, they want to get into strength and conditioning.
I think if you want to get into strength conditioning, as you're finishing up, you're going into your third or fourth year, and you have a strength conditioning staff on campus, go intern, go volunteer, because they have so much, information and knowledge that they're willing to share. That's the nice thing about just our field in general is everybody's willing to share, and if you're holding on to something, you're generally not well respected. So get in there, intern and volunteer. I know you don't make any money, but you're in college, so you're not making any money anyways, unless you're that kind of special person. As you're graduating, you definitely you will want to already have accumulated 1 to 2 internships or at least a year of interning. So if you want to continue on, the very traditional route is to accumulate a few internships and then apply for a graduate position. And I didn't take this route, so I'm probably not the best to talk to about this, but it seems to be a very common thing where you get a few internships and then you go to you get a graduate position, and then you may have to intern again, and then you might get a a part-time position somewhere because jobs are hard to come by. I tell them be prepared for life not to be that great all the time, because it is hard. You have to really love what you're doing in this field and understand that you're working in a field of service to others. It's not about you. That's very small amount of this field. There's only so many positions like that, and he had to work his way up to that $500,000. So yeah, that's I think what I would say.
Did you find that it's more competitive to find a strength and conditioning position in California versus out of state?
I think there's definitely more positions in the Midwest and on the East Coast. And if you're not out there already, it's definitely hard to find a job at those schools. I can't tell you how many jobs I've applied to. And I don't know. I kind of got lucky with this one where they had a final candidate before me, but they didn't. The staff didn't feel good about him or her, so they decided not to bring them on. So I got lucky in that they were having to go through another batch of applications. It's definitely harder to find it out here, just because you have like the Power 5. You have the Pac-12 and you have the Big West, but not all those schools have the funding for a strength coach. Not all the other schools have funding for strength coach. Like within our conference, maybe half the schools have a strength coach, and that's Division III. So I mean, you're looking at UCLA and USC. It's hard to find a job there. And then you think about the San Diego schools and some of the UC schools and some of the Cal State schools that have Division I programs, and they're very minimally staffed, I would say. So people, if you find a reliable job in strength conditioning, you're going to stay there for a while. So I mean, it's hard, California is only one part of the country, and there's all the other states, so.
Why don't you describe your day to us? How do you get
My
to...
day. Okay.
I
So
know you drive a little bit, listen to some podcasts.
yeah, I live about an hour away, so my days typically start around 4:30, so I can get here at 5 or 5:30 to set up the room and prepare for the 6 o'clock team. It's typically the swim team comes in that early, um, and then I'll have a team at 6, I'll have a team at 7. I may have another team at 7:30 or 7:45 coming in as 7 o'clock teams coming in, and then. Typically, if I have an 8 o'clock team, it's about half the team based on class schedule because classes start between 8:30 and 9. And then during the middle part of my day, maybe from 9 to 2 or 3, try to get a workout in if I have enough time, but it's mostly computer work and programming. And then right around 3 or 4, we gear back up. We have teams going at 4, 5, 6, 7. Sometimes 7. So yeah, that's my day, and it's a long day, but I wouldn't trade it for much. So I enjoy it.
What role do the coaches play in your programming?
Working with 15 teams, 16 teams, you like to think that you think everything through and you try to think of every variable that could go into training a specific sport, but you're going to miss out on some things. Even if you have 2 or 3 teams, you're going to miss out on something, and especially if it's a sport that you have never worked with or you've never participated in, you're going to have a difficult time. Not a difficult time, but you may miss a few things. So the coaches have played a huge role in giving me some guidance and what they see with their team and what they think they need. And the kids also play a role in it to some degree. Like some teams, some kids want to bench press, but some days, right now I didn't think it was in their best interest. So you have to kind of curb them that way. But the coaches definitely play a big role in giving me feedback and giving me what these kids are experiencing and what they're going through and their information. So yeah, I'd say they play a big role, but ultimately it comes down to what I think is best for the athletes.
This is a question I ask every coach I've ever worked with. What do you do when you're plugging in stuff that isn't necessarily scientifically based? Do you come up with a rationale for that? All right, it might be fun to do this for you guys, so that's why I'm gonna have you do it. Is that enough rationale? Because a lot of coaches are like, they want to do the kids want to do bench press, so they just give them that carrot. So they'll just, all right, here you go. Let's figure out what you can do.
I mean, I use my swimmers as an example a lot just because, they're swimmers, and then these kids are sitting all day, so, they have that posture associated with it, and ultimately, it became more about fixing them and not their performance, so, fixing their posture and making sure they're standing correctly, and if they experience tightness somewhere, how to get rid of it quickly and how to troubleshoot certain problems within their body. But in terms of justifying things just for the sake of justifying it, I don't do that. I always justify. I can't say I don't do that all the time, but I can't think of an example where I have done that. And I think if you read enough and you're taking from good sources and you read the research enough, I justify it that way. And then if they really want the information, I'll go and look for it if I can. But if you have someone that you read their books or you read their information, and they're a good source of information, and they justify it. I think it's okay to go with their justification.
So are you currently taking any interns at Claremont?
Ooh, good question.
I want to, but we are. It's a weird process where it takes a while to get an intern because it is a paid position here. I don't think we have anyone that works on this campus that is volunteering, not working for any per hour rate. So it would be it's going to be a long process to get an intern, and they have to find it somewhere in the budget to get me one, but our budget's pretty tight right now. I love them, but I just can't right now.
So when you're in the weight room training all the athletes, is it just you them, cueing them, keeping an eye on them?
It is just me at this time. So if Division III's, their rules are, so when you're in your in-season, so a month before the start of your season till the last competition, you are considered in-season. So coaches are allowed to be in here with me during that time. At any other point in the year, the athletes come in on a volunteer basis, so they come in here on their own. And, so there's a battle right there for me, trying to get all the kids to come in. But most of the time, most of the year, it's just me.
Are you starting to get buy-in from your kids, and is there generally like a student leader that comes in and says, all right, Captain, what do you want from
Yeah, absolutely. You have to identify those kids pretty early on. So some of the teams, it's been more difficult, but I have a few teams that they have great leadership, and they, for the most part, most of the teams are bought in. There might be a few kids that have class conflicts, but that's the reality of it. We're still, I'm still working with those junior and senior leaders or captains to, encourage their teammates to get in there and work.
It picks up on the mic again.
So how different are your programs for your incoming freshmen than they are for your outgoing seniors?
In terms of exercises, as long as I can see them, they'll do the same exercises. Obviously, if they have some kind of postural deficiency, I don't screen. The time it would take me to screen would, I'd be, just short of using a lot of my hours for the year just on screening. So I kind of just try to identify, and if the kids have pain, they let me know and I watch them. What was the question again? Get back to it. How different are freshmen from returning? They're pretty much doing the same exercises. If something hurts, I change it up for them, or change it to something that's within the ballpark, and have them go at that. I don't have numbers or maxes for freshmen, so it's kind of all on how they kind of like an RPE scale, but I just I don't have them list numbers at moderate, heavy, light. Tell them what days, what exercises to go based on that. The older kids, the returners, and the kids I've had are it's based on percentages.
What's your favorite part of your job, dude?
The athletes, definitely. When you see them succeed, when you even in the weight room, when they they do something correctly and the little light bulb goes off over their head, and they're just so happy to just get something in the weight room, and that's a great part. But ultimately, when you see them succeed and they win conference championships, and some of them win, go on to NCAA finals, it's one of the more rewarding things that you don't get. Strength coaches don't get they're not recognized for that, but it's definitely the best part.
So this is a question from someone in the audience. With a 60-to-1 ratio, how do you ensure safety in the weight room? So the less technical exercises, do you do longer progressions to more complicated movements?
So I guess your swim team.
Yeah, so with my swim team, they're only when I have the 60 kids in there, or when I have somewhere close to that, when I have them in there, I have 2 of their assistants, and they're not strength coaches, so they're kind of like parrots for me. I tell them what to look for, and if somebody's having a problem with something, then let me know and I assess. In terms of safety, you have to really be on your toes. You have to really be aware of what's going on, especially when sometimes with spacing, when it's kind of cramped and the kid gets too close to the barbell, you have to use your coach's voice to get them out of the way or move them. In terms of movements and exercises, it's one of those things where it's all, for me, it's all driven by pain, and if they can perform the movement correctly. So if they can't do it correctly or they have pain, it's regressed. If the athletes are okay, if they have good technique, then they keep going. It's just a matter of do you have the wherewithal to be within a good line of sight, and most strength coaches do. And just being able to recognize things before they happen based on where people are and where they're standing and what's going on around them. So it was definitely a little bit easier when in our last facility, when it was a little bit longer, so you can kind of look down the line and see things. We're going to find out in a few months what it's going to be like in here, and you definitely have to use your smaller teams to figure out where your best line of sight is to everyone in the room.
And as far as exercises, are you implementing the full weightlifting movements, or just power or hang?
Like Olympic compared to squat, bench, deadlift?
Olympic lift, the full snatch versus the accessory movements, so hang,
Okay.
snatch.
All right. With my teams that are really good about being here all year, and they're really bought into the whole process, I teach them how to Olympic lift. Some of them already knew how to do it. But within that, there's definitely a progression I like to go through. So from the hang to the floor, from a power to a full, or stuff like that. With teams that I don't have that same kind of buy-in, that are kind of like just come in during the in-season, they're definitely more basic, but they do squat with a bar on their back. They front squat. Because they don't have the time, because they don't come the whole year to teach them that whole process of Olympic weightlifting, I tend to not do it with them. So things like hex bar deadlifts come into play more. With the snatch,
What about your performance?
One more time.
What do you do with your performance tests? Like when you have the number of athletes that you have, how do you develop your programs?
You make it very basic. Depending on the sport, you make it very basic. Like my aquatic sports, it's mainly, I don't even really test them just because I only have them for their in season. With the rest of the sports, it's it'll be more sport specific to them. So I do all the 40s and the pro agility, long jump. We don't have a vertec or a mat, so we don't do vertical jump right now, and we can't put chalk all over the walls here. So we don't do that right now. But just basic speed, agility, the strength movements that I implement for them, we're going to test that. Conditioning, I generally leave that up to the coaches.
He might have a question for you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That you work with, how do you deal with, well, is on just progressive, regressive movement patterns for the athletes?
Is that Will?
Yes.
What's up, man? Can you repeat that?
Yeah. I guess can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess some of the same loopholes or things that I'm trying to work with at Cal State Fullerton, as far as just being able to recover the athlete through either thinking about, hey, are we going to
It's breaking up.
with that, or what are your thoughts on just recovery in general?
I heard that part. Okay, my thoughts on recovery in general. For the most part, based on their class schedule, we're only lifting about, some teams are one, so other teams are 2 times a week, and then most of the teams will have an optional third day. So recovery is not a huge aspect for me right now, just because the volume and the training, the frequency of sessions per week isn't that high. Definitely in season when they're required to be there by their coaches, we do a lot of foam rolling after. We don't generally do it before. We do a lot of band stretching. The dynamic warm-up becomes a little bit longer. We don't have the funding for supplements, and I don't think they want to get into that here. But all the kids have meal plans in our dining hall. They have access to all 5 dining halls on all the campuses, so they have food always available for them. So it's just a matter of educating them on nutrition and what they need, and it's nothing in depth. It's just this is what you should be eating and stuff like that.
I guess going a little bit more in depth with that. Do you guys? I guess I'm trying to make a questionnaire or model to where, hey, the kid comes in and I show him a total recovery chart. It's kind of like an RPE chart,
Yeah.
where one is the kid, slept horribly, hasn't eaten anything all day, or he's having McDonald's, and he wants to train. Likewise, kid had a great sleep. He's eating free snack. He feels like a 10. So I showed this chart to him, and he's continually rating himself. Are you guys? What's your thoughts on things like that?
I definitely do have kids who, I've had one kid come in and tell me, I haven't gotten any sleep, bloodshot eyes, been doing work all night, and it's one of those things where it is being there really going to help them. It's not. So
Yeah.
I send them back to their room and make them go sleep if they have the time, if they don't have class, and then I tell them, depending on what part of the year, if they're in or off season, and if they're gonna, if they have a game soon, come in and do it at another time.
Okay.
Because I'm always in here, and I'm fairly accessible to them. Most of the athletes have my cell phone number. If they don't, one of their teammates do. So we communicate that way and set up ways where they can come in and make it up.
Okay. I guess one more question.
We don't have a. Yeah.
I got one more question for you, and then my food's beeping at me.
Is it still a fish?
Yeah, I got mahi today.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, come on now. You know me. I'm the health connoisseur over here. As far as when you program for your athletes, is it just kind of like one program? Do you have different kind of tiers or systems for athletes, transfer kids? What kind of do you plan for? I guess even looking at kind of like a Joe Ken model where they have different like tiers. They're kind of over here.
Yeah.
A lot of different niches, so to speak.
Yeah, depending on the team, and then obviously you kind of have to aim for the middle ground on the team, and the team's training status. You're always going to get kids who have been doing this for years, and they, in my current situation, all these kids, or not all these kids, most of these kids come from money, so their parents they have the resources to go out and find a personal trainer that knows something. So it definitely depends on the team, and you kind of got to figure it out as you go. Just because, like I said, I don't screen them or anything because of time. I definitely use the tier system with some of my teams. The ones that have shown that they're fairly competent in the weight room. I don't necessarily do it the way that it's written up. I don't feel the need to put bench before a total or a lower. In terms of percentage training, I try to keep it as simple as possible. It's based off Prilipin. It's a progressive overload, and we can go into that argument about progressive overload versus West Side. But it's best for my kids, and in terms of other training programs I use, I try to give them what they need. So if it's a team that doesn't have any restrictions, they'll do Olympic lifts, they'll back squat, they'll front squat. I'm kind of limited on posterior chain equipment, so we do a lot of barbell glute bridges, a lot of hip thrusts, and they'll always pull every workout, whether it be a chin up or a row. It depends on the team and what I think needs to be addressed posturally. And then we'll always do some kind of posterior shoulder work. Band pull aparts are great. I love those. Cable face pulls, band face pulls, anything to get their shoulders pulled back because we all know that they sit at a desk all day.
Yeah.
So if I can get my goal across this whole year was to get them a little stronger and fix them posturally. So I did the exercises of the programs that I felt would be best for that.
Okay, cool. Well, that's all. Those are the questions.
Everyone's different. It's rare that I will apply one program to all teams. It's based on the needs of the team.
Yeah, definitely. So. Cool. Well, sounds good. Hey, good talking with Andrew. Take care.
Later, Will.
I'm getting after it, bud. You want to know what you know. I think that kind of proves your point about people want to share what they know because they care about.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. I think we've been at it for a little while, so I'm gonna let you go. It'd be cool if you could be on a panel. You'd be a panel on there with Will and stuff. You guys care about the field, and we all do.
Yeah, as soon as I move out here and I get a little more my feet on the ground, with our summer. I need to come down there. It's just been too much of a pain in the butt to drive to work and then make a side trip to Fullerton and then drive home. But I'll definitely be making some visits.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. Like I was telling you here is like we've got surrounded by people with a bunch of enthusiasm for it.
Oh yeah.
People don't understand that when you get away from here, you tend to I don't know, tends to escape you a little bit unless you.
Yeah, I'd say the hardest part of being here, and I'm sure that all the strength coaches that are by themselves will share this. It's really hard to. I remember, I think it was a Jan Lemur infographic, and it charted where do strength coaches learn the most from, and I think the highest rated thing was peer discussion. So the hardest thing being here was not having anyone to talk shop with. It's hard to, you kind of have to force yourself. You have to keep up with your reading and your research, and it's been very tough on my, in terms of having that available time to do that. So I think that would be the most difficult part of coming to a program like this.
Yeah. Well, I think once we get the technology down too, it'll be easier to connect with people. I can't believe how bad it was, man. It was pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we've got to be in a quiet room.
Yeah, I think that'll work too. So maybe we'll get to a more quiet room.
I think we need to follow the barbell shrugged way and sit in a room and drink whiskey.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that.
Get some mileage on our cars a little bit. That'll work.
Yeah, you can come here.
Yeah, well, let's go hang out in here.
Yeah, that sounds fun, man. It's not like we do it every day either, so it's like.
I know.
Hang out.
They're kind of pretty tight right now on who comes into the building, so definitely one maybe like a Saturday or a Friday because I don't have a lot going on that time.
And there's stuff to do out there. We can go hike like the
Claremont Loop.
Yeah, Claremont Loop.
Yep, Mount Baldy's right above us.
Right on, dude. Thanks for hanging out. Do you have any questions?
No, it's really long.
All right, dude. Thanks,
Yeah.
Dan.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Later, guys.